Okay, you have to be quiet, okay?
What?
I asked you to stay quiet. I'm not going to do this for very long.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, people. Here's the title on this one. Live stream not gonna work. Cold weather shelter beds. December 19th, 2015. So as you can see, I got my little flashing star up there, right? I think it interrupts the stream because it's an active GIF, right? But we'll find out after the fact. I'm going to leave it on there for a bit. And I just want to talk about these cold weather shelter beds and throw out some numbers. And then I'll come back and go into stream 1. And then I'll talk to you a little bit more about how this live stream isn't going to work for me. So, first, we'll talk about the cold weather shelter beds in Surrey and across the province of British Columbia, Canada. Okay? I got a couple of little articles here that I'll bring up later. And I have my old ticker taper back in the day from 2000 and whatnot. The ink is low. I've had the same ink in it since I bought the machine. This was in the beginning of when I started the nonprofit. So anyway, the provincial government for 5 months between the month of March of 2015, November of 2015 and March of 2016 under the Ministry of, because this is a provincial government initiative, Ministry of Natural Gas Development. This is where the funding's coming from. Okay? We're talking about shelter beds here. And in the province of British Columbia, Canada, and Surrey. Momentarily, that is. So anyway, I got a couple of news articles that I'll show you in a minute where it states on one article where the provincial government, through the Ministry of Natural Gas Development, has invested $1.6 million into anywhere between, because I'm reading different numbers on different websites, right, from different news articles, anywhere between 700 to a maximum of 1,200 temporary emergency beds. But first of all, I want to remind the viewer and the people that are popping in and out that these are not beds, okay? Maybe some shelters, the ones that are year-round, may have a bed, but I went into one today that was one of these temporary cold weather shelters. They're not. They're cots on the floor, and they're all put together like a sandwich in a can, sardines in a can, all lined up in a row. So you've got six sick people lined up in rows of, oh geez, let me just, I'm 150 feet away from where the actual people lay down on the floor and sleep on these little teeny weeny mats. And if I had to just put a round number on this floor space in terms of the number of mats and the length of the row, I'd probably say 20 to 25 mats in a row. Multiply that by maybe 15 rows, 10 rows. Well, 40. I don't know what. When I went there today looking for maybe quite possibly renting out a room or maybe 2 rooms that I have maybe coming available because I'm having conflict with my adult children. But besides the point, the government provides $1.6 million between 700 to 1,200 cold weather shelter cots, more like mats. On a yearly basis, they fund, right, approximately 1,000 beds which I would think in this case, because it's a year-round program, that they would be real beds, not just cots on a floor. All right, they do that for 1,000 people yearly across the province, which has 4.6 million people. So out of I'm sorry, tired as usual. So out of 4.6 million people in the province of British Columbia, Canada, the provincial government, under the Ministry of Gas and Natural Development, only fund 1,000 beds yearly. That's it. And between the month of November of 2015 to March of 2016, they'll fund anywhere between 700 to 1,200, but it could be 1,000 beds, because unless you want to do freedom of information or get into the budget, to find the exact number of how many beds that they're funding within that 5-month period. But it's not any more than 1,200 out of 4.6 million people, where a large portion of that population is impoverished. We got 175,000, 150,000 poor kids in British Columbia alone. That's just the children. Okay? So anyway, I said be quiet. So I took my little ticker taper here, and I tickered out some numbers, if I can read this correctly. And let's see. Let's go with the first one. November to March, 5 months. 1.6 million people, $1.6 million with 1,200 people. So in a 5-month period, per person, based on that number, the government is paying $133. $100 and $333. It all runs in threes. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. So for $1,333 for 5 months, the government will put a sick person that's homeless on a cot, assuming that they can get onto that cot every single night for 5 months in a row, because it's a one-night kind of thing, right? And that's assuming that you can get in, because they cap these cots, because the square footage that they line them up like sardine cans is limited. Okay, and what's the next one? So for $1,600,000, $1.6 million, still got the one viewer, out of 1,000 people across the province of 4.6 million, which isn't even a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a 0.5% of a 0.5% of a 0.5%, but yet these are the blight on society. These are the ones that are sucking up all the resources. To put them on a cot, okay, it's going to cost the government $1,600 for 1,000 people at $1.6 million for 5 months. And then, if you go where the government's only funding for 700 people to sleep on a cot, if they're lucky to get in, out of 4.6 million people between a 5-month period, that cot now costs $2,285 for that one person in that 5-month period, assuming that they can get that cot every night for 5 months in a row. So we don't really know if it's 700 people that they're cotting up, 1,000 people that they're putting on a cot, or if it's 1,200 people in a 5-month period. All we know is that approximately 1,000 people across the whole province of 4.6 million people get access to a cot or a bed regularly, if they're lucky to get it, in a 12-month period. Well, the other 5 months is a hit and miss. So anyway, the only reason I'm talking about this is because, one, I went out there looking for somebody to rent these rooms to, because I just can't cope with my problematic freaking adult kids that want to be rebellious because they're all upset at what happened with Uncle John and everything else that's been going on, right? You know, and I know there's other people out there that would probably appreciate having a room. So whether that happens or not, I don't know. I went to this one place where, you know, people go for dinner, but it was closed. So this is how I ended up at this shelter. Because as I was walking to the gas station one day with my little grandson, you know, we have city workers and their contractors on land that houses have been torn down, where people are camping out, and, you know, they're taking all their stuff and just throwing it on the truck, and these people are end up with nothing, you know, sick, whatever, right? And so anyway, this guy mentioned to me, because I stopped and I chatted with him for a minute. He mentioned to me how they opened up this new shelter, and it's supposed to be really nice. And as soon as you go, they give you some food, blah blah blah. Well, I thought I'd pop in there, and that's how I ended up there today. And yeah, I mean, from what I heard, it's really nice. I went inside. I was basically told that it was private and that I wasn't allowed to be there. Don't ask me how that one worked, because I came in asking questions. I wanted to know who funded them. The lady that was working there said, well, she didn't really know who funded them. She assumed it was the province, and that she was just a contractor worker from another organization that goes from shelter to shelter to shelter. Right? So she doesn't necessarily work for the government. She works for the contractor that contracts out the shelter system, because this wasn't her only location. And that I should go to the front room. And then I told her, well, gee, if I go to the front room with my grandson, you know, the only thing that's going to happen there is somebody's going to call social services on me, you know, because I'm at the front room now with my grandson, you know. So I didn't go to the front room, right? I came home and I ended up having a huge fight with my son. Or it was before, arguing over this Wi-Fi crap, this live stream not going to work, which is the next part of the so let's go out of this and just put it on me. Hold on a minute. There. Oops. Look at my glasses glowing. Okay, let me go back to where I was. This thing is lagging again. Is it going to catch up? Doesn't look like it. Or is it going to be another whacked out video where nothing aligns itself? Was it that little flashing star that did it? Or is it maybe the program? Because we know it's not the internet bandwidth, because I got the high speed right now plugged right into the freaking computer from modem to computer. The only problem is the Wi-Fi isn't strong enough, so it's been creating a lot of dilemma and a lot of strife and a lot of anxiety in the house, because the modem is going up and down the stairs as people want to, you know, plug into it directly. Because if I have the Wi-Fi up, or the modem up here, the Wi-Fi doesn't work on the other half of the house. And if the modem is downstairs, it doesn't work very well up here. And on the old computer that I have, that if the Wi-Fi is right here, this will pull in 5 bars. But if the modem is over there, this will only bring in 2 bars. And it's, you know, it's sputtering and spitting and freezing and crashing, and, you know, just breeds frustration. While the service provider is telling me that I need to maybe get a second box and pay twice as much money with a little promotion plan for 6 months, but after the fact, I'm looking at double the cost. As I'm having a wrestling match with my middle son over the modem. Because we're on a power trip with each other, right? So I went 2 days without the modem. Because my daughter, well, a day and a half, my daughter wanted the modem last night. Right? So she could talk to her friends on the phone and blah, 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 blah. So I said, okay, fine. So I bring up the modem this morning. I wasn't even on the computer for half an hour before my son showed up and said, well, I want the modem. And I'm like, well, no, I want to do a live stream because I don't think I'm going to be doing these for too much longer because it's just too much of a hassle. That's not to mention these programs that probably isn't even working correctly. It's going to make me look whacked out. You know, I'm talking, but my mouth is over there. Or I'm saying nothing. But yet you hear something, right? Like nothing is lining up. And this is what they want you to pay for in terms of the host to these live streams, which is another expense, which I can't afford. And I don't even know if I can find, out of all these people that need housing, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find anybody that's responsible enough to live here. Because their lives are so torn apart. You know? Go to that shelter today and she's saying, well, no, you don't want to talk to anybody here about renting a room. Even though all those same people that go there are the same ones that go to the front room. Duh. Right? But you don't want to talk to these people because they're too down at the bottom of the skid row there to be, you need somebody that's more willing to be in the second stage. And I'm telling you, all I could think about was, how did they get there? How did those people get there? Because somebody put them there. That's why. That stuff is orchestrated, just like the numbers are orchestrated. So you get funding from the Ministry of Natural Gas. Not from housing. I guess not, because some of these people qualify for a welfare check in the tune of $375 for housing. But of course, they don't have housing, so the government saves, well, I don't have a calculator right now, but if they're not getting their housing and they're paying technically under a welfare check for $375, whether you got disability legally in terms of you're approved with your $900 welfare check, or whether you're just a sick person that's an individual for $600 a month, doesn't matter. The total maximum dollar amount that you're going to get for housing as a single person is $375, but the government isn't paying that out for 1,000 people times 1,000 people. We'll just round it off at 1,000 people between 700 and 1,200, right? They saved themselves $375,000. That's a lot of money. So this $1.6 million that they paid out, you can take off $400,000. So they only really paid $1.2 million. Round it off, right? They didn't pay 1.6, so they're fudging the numbers. That's what they're doing. Just like when they're sending you to the food bank. It's just number fudging. Fudging the numbers. Right? And that's for 1,000 people out of 4.6 million. I don't know what the number is in terms of like the number of single people that are on welfare and on the fringe, but I'm sure it's more than 1,000 because in Surrey you've got at least 1,000, if not 3,000. You just don't see them, right? And to be referred to the front room with the shadow workers and my feelings on that, you know, it just, it's because we're dealing with a system here, right? We're dealing with a system that wants to break these people in one. Okay, let's see if we can do this. In one little news article, they're asking for cough drops. Okay, bring cough drops because everybody's coughing. Let me just see if I can do this. I gotta move the camera. This is gonna be funky, okay? I don't have people helping me. Let's give it a chance to catch up. Where did it go? See, I can't see this. Anyway, right here. What's come up in discussion with this group is cough drops are a huge thing. If they're sucking on them, they're not coughing and keeping people awake. Do you know how many people die in Surrey with their lungs collapsing every year? Quite a few died last year, like 15 that I went out in the streets and people were telling me about, and that's what we knew about people. Okay? If I was to go out there right now, I could almost guarantee you somebody has died. It's just nobody's reporting it. And for many, it's the only relief they get from their cough all day.
That's just gas.
There's your cot. Okay.
What's a cot?
There it says, Ministry of Natural Gas Development. Alright, where am I? 700 extreme weather shelter spaces across Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. Let's just factor in the Olive Province. Okay, we can round it off to 1,000. With the high number, maybe 1,200. 1,000 permanent year-round shelter beds across the region. What else do we got here? This one here, when it started raining and blowing, crazy, in Abbotsford, 20 beds. Do you honestly believe in a city like Abbotsford, there's only 20 homeless people with 10 more in the ranks? Come on. Let's see. Oh, that didn't work. Sorry. That looks really stupid. Now we know why I'm not going to be doing live stream, because I'm arguing. Hold on, I want to try and figure this out. I am arguing with my service provider. I can't stand going up and down with the freaking modem, having to pay for the extra stress. Hold on. I'm trying to make it so that you can see these little news articles. This is not working. This is dumb. Okay? I don't know how these people do it. I'm holding this with my hand. Anyway, I don't plan on doing these because I've requested to go back to the grandfather modems. This is not working, which is that lower speed. But what it does is it gives me 3 different modems that I can plug into different computers, up, down. Everybody's got their own line, and I can put on a cheap router, right, for the ones with the cell phone, and it works just as fine. Anyway, I'll just add, hold on a minute. That's not working. Oh, this is not working. Oh, now we're getting into that tunnel vision. Okay. I'll just add the links to this video. I don't got time to fool around with this stuff. I got so many other things to be thinking about and worrying about that I can't learn new technology and have to pay for it and be frustrated. That would be like having to start the nonprofit all over again and going bankrupt like I'm currently doing. Seriously. As I go to my local community homeless shelters, and all I can think about is my daughter, who basically is dying, right? With the rest of those people who haven't died yet. And if it's not my daughter, it's my oldest son now. Because my oldest son came home with problems that aren't being addressed in a compassionate kind of way through the healthcare system. And if you noticed, I used the word compassionate. Because there is no compassion anymore. It's all about this dollar stuff, right? You know? In terms of crunching the numbers and fudging them. Okay? So the government gets to save, what was it? $400,000 on people's welfare checks. Right? And on a low ball, house them on a floor for $133 a year. Like a month per person for a year. Because if you have $1.6 million for 12 months, at 1,000 people, or whatever it was I calculated out here. No, what I did is I took $1.6 million, divided it by 12 months to find out what the dollar amount would be approximately. It'd be $133, and that in a roundabout way would be $133 per month per person for a year for 1,000 beds out of 4.6 million people.
No, I just know.
When we know that there's probably 10,000 people, at least, if not more, in British Columbia, Canada, that are homeless. I would say that's a very conservative number. And that's not factoring in the housing, the homes that are falling apart at the seams, like mine. Right? Kids going crazy. You know, everybody's in deep depression. You know, we live in a depression, right? You know, can't keep up with this, can't afford to move. You know, can't afford to stay where you are, right? Can't go bankrupt, but you are, right? Kids going crazy because they're depressed and feeling helpless, you know? And you know, it's stupid. It's stupid. And then have to struggle with this crap and then pay more money while you're running up and down the stairs with the modem as you come on YouTube to talk about this stuff, and all you're going to do is attract the Duncan clan to come in and say, well, you shouldn't have the internet anyway. You need to go out and get a fucking job before you have the internet. Internet's only for us rich people. Us middle class. Right? Because they're the middle class. They're the ones that work for the government. They're the nurses and the doctors and the caregivers. They're the ones that look after my daughter and look after my son and my stepdad. They're the ones that look after these people laying up on a cot needing these cough drops all day long, all night long, just so that they're not coughing when they're not dying, because they're dying. For someone like me to come in and ask a simple question to say, well, gee, I may have 1 or 2 rooms coming up for rent at the end of January, right? Because I need to be able to build on to my life so that I don't end up in this shelter without my grandson, because we know that the provincial government's not going to allow my grandson to be there. But they'll allow his parents to be there. Right? Because that's, if they're not on the streets being prostituted, they're in there. Trust me. But we don't talk about stuff like this when we're a mayor or a local politician or a provincial MLA, because that's dirty talk. Those are dirty secrets that, you know, those are bad people, you know, bad people that only deserve a cot until they hit rock bottom and they realize that they have to make the right choices. They have to make the right choices. Not the government employee that makes the money, not the government contractor that makes the money. Because do you honestly believe that these people sleeping on the cot are getting paid? No. They forfeited their $375 rent check from the government that doesn't even pay rent. $375 is not enough for the room in order for me to be able to maintain on the cable, the gas, and the hydro, and the rent in this house. I told my youngest daughter, it's like the government. Do I still have a viewer? Yeah, I do. Okay. I don't care what you think, right? Because there's always 2 sides to the coin. And I know on the rich side, everything's all nice and shiny and perfect and surreal. And it's, you know, law and legislation and done by the books and rule of law. And it's mandate this and legislation that and best practice and all this other crap. So anyway, this is how I explain it to my younger daughter. I say this, okay, you're on welfare. Well, I'm on welfare, right? And the government only pays X amount of dollars for your teeth. So you have to run around town looking for a dentist that's willing to take less money to do the same kind of job for less money. So not every dentist you call up will accept you, because they don't want $60 on $100. They want the full $100, right? Well, it's the same thing with rent. What costs $500 the government's only willing to pay $375. Right? And at best, these people only get $375 for rent, which they're not getting because they're homeless. Right? The government just takes that funds and put it right back into their, pilot project for 5 months. So they can make it look like they're doing something for the people. Only a small fraction, though, people. Not the whole populace. Right? So, if I was to rent a room, if my kids were to move out, because they may, because I've had it up to here, especially with my middle daughter, I told her, if you would have listened to me when you were in high school, she's 20 now, you'd be almost a nurse by now. You'd be almost completed your course and you'd be a nurse. But no, you got other priorities, right? Where, they're not aligning up with my life, right? I'm only so long in this house and there's some things I need to do before I leave. And she's holding me up, right? With her antics and being irresponsible and not having her priorities in order. So since she wants to be all grown up and be married and entertain her friends and do that kind of stuff and put her education last, well, she can go get her own little apartment and she can figure it out for herself. So that may have a room become available. Right? And in Surrey, you're looking at 1,500 to 3,000 people almost instantly homeless that need a room. But everybody's stuck in that welfare mentality where I pay $375 and I want this and I want that and give me this and you're not giving, like my kids. They're going to be just like my kids. I can see it coming. Because I already get it from my daughter. I got it from my son when he was here. Not so much my younger son, right? But he's choked because he doesn't have the freedom to eat as much as he used to, and he feels guilty now for taking food because I've expressed to him that I can't replace it anymore. So if it gets all eaten up in a 4-month to 6-month period, that means Andre and anybody else that's living in this house will starve, because that's what the Duncan clan did. If Uncle John would have died, it would have been different. But it's not different. And there's no point in doing live streams and paying all this extra cost to be dealing with a funky program that doesn't even fucking work right unless you want to pay for it. And even then, are we sure it's going to work correctly? Or am I going to be able to figure it out where it runs smoothly like somebody that already knows what they're doing? As I got this huge chip on my shoulder talking about things that obviously depress me, because I know my kids are in that number where they're falling through the cracks and dying in a province that is rich with gold, uranium, diamonds, coal, natural gas, lumber. We're rich as a province in those natural resources. But that money that comes from those revenues does not go into the people, because 60 to 70% of all housing sales are coming in from China and Asia and India and places like that, where the people that are born in this province, all we get to ever do is pay off the mortgage for somebody else and then end up on that cot after we've had a nervous breakdown. Some of us have that nervous breakdown a little faster. Some of us have it a little later. Sooner or later, though, we're all going to get it. Because it's numbers being fudged through draconian legislation and corrupt politics. That make you pay for it. One way or another, you're going to pay for it. So I can't afford 2 modems in the house. I can't depend on my adult children to be respectful to me. Right? And the 30 years that I invested into them so that they can even have something to complain about. Right? And if they're going to demand this and demand that and demand, well, to hell with it, right? I'm not even going to waste my time. Right? Like I said, I'm arguing with my son today over a freaking modem. After I gave the modem to my daughter last night, so she could sit up in her freaking bedroom, smoke cigarettes with her boyfriend, and drink fucking hard liquor because she works all week. And she wants me to clear out the living room, which I'm telling her, no, you get a little part just for you because you're supposed to be going to school, studying like a little busy bee so you can become a nurse like Uncle John's sister, right? Be a professional, you know, so that you don't end up in this trap that your mother's in, right? So that you're not open to criticism, you know, move up on the epitome of what is right in our society so you can save yourself the stress. But no, you want the living room to bring your friends in so you can smoke more cigarettes and drink and, you know, leave a mess. And I come down there and, you know, in 1 month, maybe you'll pay rent. Next month, maybe you won't. And you're arguing with your boyfriend and blah, 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 blah. So I'm getting ready for the storm. That's what I told the service provider. I said, forget this shit. Give me back my old modems. I'll go at 30 gigs or whatever it is. I won't have high. It will take me 400 minutes to upload a 35-minute freaking video. 400 minutes to upload a 35-minute video, where with this modem, a 35-minute video will go up in 25 minutes. How does that work out? Huh? 25 minutes to upload a 35-minute video. On the old modem, which I'm getting back, I won't be able to do live streams. It won't be fast enough. So that's what this is about. I gotta wait for Tuesday. They gotta go talk to a supervisor because they don't offer that plan anymore. But I told them their product is shoddy. I said, you're the people who called me up. Why do you call me up trying to sell me something that doesn't even work properly? I go run off to his Staples. I go off and buy a different router. You know, got freaking this bill calling me, that bill calling me, just so that I got my kids not mad at me, right? And there's all saying, well, you shouldn't be spending money on a router. So anyway, I haven't opened the box. I'm just going to go take the router back and pay Royal. Because Uncle John didn't die. It's not like I can tell the bank that he died. Right? Somebody has to take responsibility for it. Do you know that the Duncan clan is like putting in $500 a month in a fucking registered retirement plan? That I know of. Didn't want to pay his visa. Took it to collections. And they probably have some ghost account with fucking $1 million sitting in it after Joan died. And this shit that I'm coming into contact with for whatever strange reason is just a ghost account. Like just smoke and mirrors, and dog and pony show. But at the end of the day, I'm the one stuck with the bills. Well, John's brain dead and oblivious to everything that's going on around him. That's the kind of government fucking system that we have. As my daughter is being 100% thoroughly fucking prostituted out in the streets, as she's being under mind control with these people that have her. As the cops just drive on by. You know, people just keep on walking on by. But it saves the government that little bit of money that they would otherwise spend for that cot on the bed. Right? That's why they let them be prostitutes out there all drugged out. Because it saves the government money. So their shadow workers can look once in a while and say, well, okay, we'll just take some notes here. Obviously, you can tell I'm very disturbed with the situation at hand here. Right? Well, my older son, as he's having a nervous breakdown, at some point will be corralled and rounded up, taken to the hospital, and injected with God knows what, as they have him restrained, with 5 different freaking medications to probably do some sort of mind control experiment, because by the time he got here after that shit happened to him, because he told me that's what happened to him a week prior to him showing up here, he was a lunatic. And he told me, I'm not myself, I'm sorry, Mom. Well, what am I supposed to do, though? Right? I can't have him here under those conditions. Six years. And that's the best that the healthcare system could provide for my son, was to inject him with a bunch of shit and then release him like a crazy man? Huh? As they drive to work, seeing my daughter stand out there being exploited? That's the healthcare system in British Columbia, Canada. As we require cough drops for all the people that cough 24/7 when they're not dying. As you, a public that's open to go to the shelter and you just want to ask a couple little questions, you know, looking maybe for one person that you could maybe rent a room out and give them some relief, and the worker, which is really a contract worker but is an expert on the business because that's all she does, tells you that you're not welcome there because looking at them on the cot is a private fucking enterprise. What, were you embarrassed that these people were on a cot and somebody from the public actually came in and witnessed it for themselves with a small child? Knowing that his grandmother, sooner or later, Andre's going to grow up and he's going to figure this shit out. First his father, then his mother, maybe now his grandmother, and his uncle. Like, just out to wipe out my whole family. Well, they got John all dressed up nice and pretty, right? I'm sure with his hair combed, put on a little weight because he's, you know, taking those pills and they're just stuffing him full of food and, you know, and showing the world what a good job that they did with him. But forgot to tell you that they scooped out his brains and turned him into a racist bastard that's totally ignorant to what's around him. Because this family is racist. It takes racist kind of people to do this shit. I'm sorry. My youngest daughter took John to Victoria in 2014. Don't listen to that bitch on that Shemaine called Uncle John. Well, she said, well, how come you never brought Uncle John? Why you never bring Uncle John? No, we brought Uncle John all the time. What they wanted was for John to hop on a ferry by himself, knowing that he couldn't do it. By 2008, he was incapable. Well, before even 2008, but by 2008, he was incapable of going to Victoria on his own without assistance. So therefore, my kids by that time were old enough and they stepped up to the plate, and it was Marquette and Shemaine that took him. If it wasn't that, it was Shemaine. And finally, Tisha got a little older, and by 2014, she took John in 2014 for John's mother's 99th birthday. And she used her own money that she was working at McDonald's to get there and back. Because we were still recuperating as to what happened with Andre. And with Joan bearing ship when she went into the care ward, we got stuck with this house and all the bills and everything else. Right? So for this woman to say, well, you didn't bring John. Why didn't you bring John? Oh, poor John, poor John. No, my daughter, and you know what my daughter said? When she showed up with John in 2014, all those people sat there and said, oh, what a beautiful granddaughter you have. What a beautiful granddaughter you have. Because John would say, this is my granddaughter. 2015 rolled around, all of a sudden, he's not your grandfather. He's not allowed to talk to you. Quiet. You're not allowed to have contact with him. Call security. So you tell me what happened in a period of 6 freaking months from going from being a granddaughter to all of a sudden be going, call security. And then sit there and accuse my kids of me of not allowing him to go when it was my kids that took him there because he was incapable of going on his own. But not once did those people ever get on a freaking ferry and come and see him for even a day. They had to wait until he was sick and they could dope him up. And they could get into their little gang stalking mode, right? Manipulate his files, just do a whole bunch of crazy crap. And then, provoke me with their little thumbs down and their little crew and everything else. Which is besides the point. Because you know why? I have 13 years of John being on the board of directors with this foundation. And when I get the time, I'm going to make on my minutes page with my nonprofit. And you will see, year after year after year, John never missed not one annual general meeting until they took him and destroyed his brain for his money so that they could play dirty politics with the poorest of the poor and then come back and say, let me help you. These are the people that are helping my kids. And if you look at my daughter and you look at my son, you can see that they're not being helped. And if you go to this shelter where I was today with these people sleeping up on a fucking cot, needing cough drops, when they're not dying out there, is not help. Nothing I wanted to do was holler into a freaking live stream that doesn't mean jack shit. And that's another reason I'm not doing this crap. Because it ain't getting me nowhere. It doesn't accomplish anything. What the fuck does it accomplish? Absolutely nothing. What it does is it gives the government ammunition to come back and, let's just take Andre's Playhouse. Right? Let's harass her. Let's harass her through the city, through that political fucking venue for the playhouse that's out in the backyard. They got Mr. Lace, right? They have to derail me with focusing on what I need to do with Uncle John because they don't want the truth to get out what the fuck goes on in those old care wards. Right? Any more than they want truth to get out that they only pay $1.2 million for less than 1,000 people to have a cold weather bed, maybe 3 times, 4, 5, 6 times, maybe if they're lucky, 15 days out of a month for 5 months, and the rest of the time they're out in the fucking streets. Because there is more than 1,000 people that are homeless in Surrey. So anyway, live stream is not going to be, I don't think, much longer. Unless for some reason they can't give me back my old modems and I get stuck with this thing. And I get past this, I don't know. I'm not talking about Fukushima. I'm not talking about gold coins and silver and all this crap, right? I don't talk about, the globalists and the New World Order. And I talk about more like homegrown, what's out in the streets, what's in the homes, what's in the community, how average people are treated, that kind of thing, right? And there's not a big interest out there for that. So anyway, I gotta go. Goodbye. Maybe I'll do this again before Tuesday. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with this modem. I really don't. I just know that having it go up and down the stairs isn't working. And I'm sure in the hell not going to pay for this stuff any more than I'm already paying. So how do I turn this off? I have this problem all the time.
I don't know.
Neither do I.
Mickey!